All right, on today's episode of Python Papi, we're back inside our TensorFlow course, and we did just finish up our malaria mitigating overfitting and underfitting module. Let's have a look at what we went over today. Now, yesterday, if you recall, we left off with going over our dropout rate and how to implement that. So we went over exactly where we implemented it and where we put it in our code, and then we actually ran our model overnight. So let me show you exactly where it popped up in our model. So you can see here, our model is sequential, and if you look here, you can see our dropout. We have a dropout rate. These are the parameters of the dropout rate, which are 0. This is the shape of it. There's a none, 111, 111, 6. That's for the first dropout that we added to our cob D. And then we had a second one under our batch layer. This one had the shape of none, 1000, and this one also had 0 parameters. So notice that our dropout doesn't have any parameters. C line 707, like I just showed you. So yeah, that's pretty much it. All we went over, and then we actually moved to the last phase of the mitigating overfitting and underfitting module, which was the tf.correct.regularizers or regularizers L2. So this is a regularizer that applies L2 penalty. So we'll be going over the process of implementing the L2 regularizers and the L1 regularizers. This is the sample code that we'll be working with and modifying. This is the sample code we got from the website, TensorFlow website. So the 12 specifies the regularization rate, as you can see here. Now, before we move forward, we will go back to our COBD and specify the kernel regularizer, which will be equal to the TF.correct regularizer, C line 111. Let me go. Well, I'm going to read because everything is going to take place back up top. Nothing's going to take place down here, so I'll just keep reading for now. We can implement the L2 and the L1 for future use without the TF.correct regularizer by importing it. So instead of having to write this out every time, we're just going to import it with our imports. So from then on, we can just use the L2 or the L1 in our code instead of specifying the whole drawn out code there. And I actually show you how we did that on 911. And then we can also add the kernel regularizer equals L2 to our second COBD, C line 116. And we can also add these to the dense layers, but note we didn't add it to the last dense layer, which is the output layer. And this is how we implement the weight decay with TensorFlow. And we can also modify the parameters after we initialize it. So we initialize the regularization rate to 0.01, which is the standard. But if we wanted to adjust it, we could just do it there. Instead of having to go to every piece of code and modify it, we could just initialize it and modify it at that one location and then move on. Now we can run our model, and from here we will go ahead and retrain our model. So let me get and show you everything that we did up top. First, we let me see. The first thing we did was the let's go to line 11 first to show you how we actually imported it. So you can see here we have our from correct regularizers, import L2 and L1. Even though we didn't use the L1, we just imported it also just so we can have it if we ever needed it in the future. So that was the first thing we did. And then we actually put it in our code here. As you can see, our kernel regularizer equals L2. Now remember, it was supposed to be the tf.correct.regularizers.l2, but since we implemented it up in our imports, we don't have to use all of that. We can just specify the L2, and that knows exactly what we're talking about. So we have one here in our cob D, our first cob D. We actually have it here in our second cob D, and then we have them here in our first two dense layers. But we don't have it here in our last dense layer, which is our output layer. And let me see what else we did here. I think that was pretty much everything. Yeah, it's pretty much everything we did. We're implementing it. So all we have to do now is run it, which we will do overnight. I'm not going to do it now, of course, you know why. But yeah, so everything is moving forward. And we did actually make it out of this module, this mitigating of overfitting and underfitting. And I got everything queued up for this augmentation TF image caress layers.py. That's going to be the next module, or the augmentation with TF image and caress layers. So yeah, we'll be diving into that tomorrow, and of course, I will keep you posted every step of the way. But for now, this is the Python Papi. You guys stay Gucci.